Now let's look at the cost of insert. Remember our assumption that in a heap file, we'll do the insertion at the end of the file. And let's assume we can get the page at the end of the file directly via calculation. So we don't have to do any IOs to find that page. Really all we're doing is we're sticking a row into a page of a file. The cost of that is just 2D. Now why am I saying 2D? The D is clear. That's the cost of an IO. Why 2? Well, remember that we can't manipulate databases directly. We have to bring them into memory. So we're going to read the page. We're going to write some bytes onto it, representing the new row, in memory. And then we're going to write that region of memory back to the page on disk. So it's 2D, one for the read, one for the write. And remember, whenever we're working with data on disks, we don't actually manipulate the disk directly. We read things from the disk. We manipulate data in memory, and then we write the memory buffer back to disk. Right? So there's always going to be a sort of double cost for any data modification, the cost of read and the cost of write. Now let's think about how this works for a sorted file. In a sorted file, we have to find where the value goes. Suppose the value is 4.5. So we're going to do a search to find where the value goes. And as we know from before, that search is a log base 2 of b times d cost. And once we find where the value goes, now we're going to have to put it there and scoot everything bigger than it to the right. Okay? And that's going to mean we're going to have to take a pass through the remainder of the file, reading and writing these pages. Okay, so what's the cost of all that? Well, on average, we're going to do the insertion in the middle of the file, right? That was our average case scenario, was that the data's in the middle of the file on an equality search. And that means we're going to have to read and write half the file. So the cost for insertion in a heap file we said was 2D. The cost for insertion in a sorted file, excuse me, is log base 2 BD to do the lookup, and then BD to do the rest, because it's reading half the file and writing half the file, which in total is BD.